Monitoring peaceful assemblies is essential. It allows the provision of a vital source of independent information on the activities of assembly participants and law enforcement. This can then be used to inform public debate and serve as a basis for dialogue between state and non-state actors. Independent assembly monitoring can be used as a tool to assist with reforms aimed at ensuring freedom of peaceful assembly in line with international human rights standards. It can contribute to police accountability and help prevent human rights violations. There is an evolving international recognition of the right to monitor assemblies. Indeed, freedom of peaceful assembly not only covers the right to hold or participate in public gatherings, but also protects the rights of those monitoring them. States should therefore ensure their protection and respect and facilitate the right to observe and monitor all aspects of assemblies. In addition, states should seek ways to facilitate dialogue between civil society and relevant national authorities and government institutions. This includes welcoming civil society monitoring activities, observing compliance with human rights, and allowing civil society to convey their views and make recommendations to their government. Finally, the right to monitor public assemblies is part of the more general right to seek and receive information, which is connected to the right to freedom of expression and protected by international human rights norms. Therefore, assembly monitors also enjoy the right to record and report on law enforcement operations. Confiscation, seizure, or destruction of notes and visual or audio recording equipment should be prohibited. In this video, experts and activists from different OSCE participating states will share with you why they think freedom of peaceful assembly matters and why independent monitoring of assemblies is important.
My name is Clément Voulet, and I'm the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to freedom of assembly and association.
My name is Tatiana Glushkova, and I'm a board member at Memorial Human Rights Defense Center, as well as a member of the ODIHR panel of experts on freedom of assembly and association.
Меня зовут Евгений Жовтис. Я юрист, директор казахстанской неправительственной организации «Казахстанское международное бюро по правам человека и соблюдению законности», член Совета Института прав человека, Международной ассоциации юристов и член Совета экспертов БДИП ОБСЕ по свободе собраний и ассоциаций.
The right to freedom of assembly is a right which is essential for democratic society. The right to freedom of assembly also enables the enjoyment of many other rights: political, civil, social, cultural, and economic rights.
Право на свободу мирных собраний является одним из ключевых политических прав и гражданских свобод, наряду со свободой слова и выражения, свободой совести и религии или убеждений и свободой объединения.
Through the right to freedom to assemble, individual and community are able to advocate for just policies and equality, to raise grievances and participate in public discussion affecting their community or society as a whole. Freedom of peaceful assembly is important for achieving justice, better governance, and sustainable transition and peace building. In a time of conflict and social crisis, the right to freedom of peaceful assembly is ever so important as it allows affected community to raise their voice.
In addition, peaceful assemblies enable and facilitate constructive dialogue between different parts of society that may hold different visions for the future of the country and its people. These gatherings amplify the voices of marginalized groups and those who present alternative narratives to established political and economic interests.
Despite the importance of these rights to advance human rights, it's often been misconstrued by states as a threat and undermine national security and stability. As I urge many times, states, this rhetoric must be changed, as it hampers all our fundamental rights and is contrary to state obligation to respect, protect, and enable this fundamental freedom.
A government's approach toward assemblies provides a clear indication of their respect not only for the freedom of assembly itself, but also for human rights in general, as well as the authorities' willingness to facilitate change, including peaceful transfer of power. Governments that understand the importance of respecting the ideas and views of their citizens and the stability that comes with such respect accept peaceful assemblies and engage in dialogue with assembly participants. In contrast, governments that perceive peaceful assemblies as a threat and seek to suppress them eventually become capable of governing solely through repressive methods.
Monitoring contributes to the exercise of the right to peaceful assembly to ensure people can safely exercise their fundamental freedoms. Monitoring is important during all stages of the exercise to peaceful assembly, from planning, mobilization, and outreach during the assembly and after the assembly. Through my work, I have documented serious violations committed during all these stages of peaceful assembly.
Поэтому принципиально важно осуществлять эффективный мониторинг реализации этого права, начиная с обсуждения идеи проведения мирного собрания, поскольку на этом этапе обсуждаются темы, участники и формы планируемого мирного собрания. Здесь также реализуется право на свободу слова и выражения мнения, но в целом ряде государств этот этап рассматривается как часть организации мирного собрания, регулируется и ограничивается законодательством о мирных собраниях. Эффективный мониторинг также важен на стадии коммуникации потенциальных организаторов мирных собраний с властями, особенно в условиях наличия уведомительных и/или разрешительных процедур. Наконец, наиболее важным является эффективный мониторинг реализации права на свободу мирных собраний на стадии их проведения. Здесь ведется независимое наблюдение за поведением организаторов и участников мирных собраний, действиями властей, прежде всего правоохранительных органов, наличие доброй воли в поддержании мирного характера собраний со стороны участников и соблюдение принципа презумпции в пользу права со стороны властей. Эффективный мониторинг мирных собраний на всех стадиях позволяет информировать власти и общественность о соблюдении права на свободу собраний, привлекать внимание к имеющимся проблемам и осуществлять адвокацию необходимых изменений в законодательстве и правоприменительной практике.
Gathering information about abuses in the context of assembly also help regional bodies, as well as international human rights mechanisms, like my mandate, to intervene and advocate to the state to change their policies and practices, bring accountability for abuses, and to ensure people can safely exercise their fundamental rights.
Казахстанское международное бюро по правам человека и соблюдению законности на основе многолетнего мониторинга мирных собраний в Казахстане выпустило несколько подробных отчетов о мониторинге, включая доклад о ситуации с правом на мирные собрания в 2018-2020 годах, который содержал детальный анализ действующего национального законодательства по сравнению с международными стандартами и обзор правоприменительной практики. Этот доклад был направлен в Комитет ООН по правам человека и специальному докладчику ООН по вопросу о свободе мирных собраний и ассоциаций, а также международным правозащитным организациям, уполномоченным государственным органам Казахстана и представлен Обществу Казахстана для поддержания дискуссии об обеспечении этого права в нашей стране.
All of the aforesaid clearly shows the importance of monitoring a state's level of respect for freedom of assembly. When governments attempt to restrict this fundamental right, it is often an indication of future or ongoing violations of other basic human rights. It is especially important to monitor the freedom of assembly of minorities and vulnerable groups, as respect for this right is essential in ensuring diversity and pluralism in society.
Monitoring is a powerful tool which helps people to feel safe when the assembly to speak out and raise their voices. It's help to prevent abuses and to ensure accountability as well as by providing evidence to assist in changing law enforcement practices, making them compliant to the international human rights standard when policing assemblies.
This video highlighted the importance of freedom of peaceful assembly in close connection with other human rights and reflected on the role of independent assembly monitors. In the next module, we will walk you through the main standards related to the right to freedom of peaceful assembly.